and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and I'm here today to do the second part of my fortnightly moon videos that I'm doing at the moment. I do the full and the new moons each month, and so this is the full moon in Libra that is going to be taking place on the 16th of April, and it's my intuitive interpretation of the energies at this time, the messages or the insights that I'm given. I pass on through my videos about the astrology and what's taking place for us at this time. I'm calling it full moon in Libra, cooperation through unity. For those of you who are interested in finding out more about your own astrological chart, if you don't already know your placements and things and you're more interested in finding out about them, then there will be a link in the description box down below for you to go and sort that out. So the full moon energy is always about surrendering to the divine. Surrendering, letting go, releasing, its culmination, completion, something that has come to a point, an ending. Let it go, release it, and it's particularly relevant at this time with all the Piscean energy that we're in as well. The big releasing energy of Pisces. Pisces is all about 12th house, surrendering, letting it go, dissolving, transcending energy. So that's kind of playing into this full moon energy that we're in as well. And then of course we have the actual full moon energy of Libra, and this is talking about us being in a win-win situation. So it's kind of balance and harmony is really what Libra energy is about. Balance, harmony, diplomacy, peace through harmony, partnerships rather than friendships. This is more partnerships, business partnerships or intimate partnerships, and finding solutions as well at this time. And so it is cardinal energy, Libra energy. So cardinal energy is all about movement, action, doing something about it, which is why it says be bold and make the first move. So it's a very active, dynamic energy. Even though it's quite a gentle full moon energy, I feel at the same time there is an active, driving energy behind that as well. Because Libra is that more gentle communication. It is ruled by Venus, of course, and my cards behind me are all the energies there. Libra, I balance. Venus is all about our values and love, of course. The 7th house energy being partnerships, and then finally we have the air energy, which is what the Libra element is ruled by. So I'm just going to pull a spirit animal oracle card to see what the energies are that we're working with from this full moon in Libra up to the new moon that's taking place in Taurus, which is the eclipse energy that we're going to be moving into. We're already in that eclipse energy because eclipse energy begins about a month prior to that happening. So really it started back during the new moon that just took place in Aries. Oh, so we have the Badger energy, and we've had this one previously. Might even been during the new moon. I don't think it was actually. I think it was just prior to that. The Badger energy, Badger spirit, be fearless and bold, which is kind of that cardinal moon energy I was talking about. Last time, I think we got, can't remember what it was, but I know it was telling us to slow down. Turtle, perhaps? It might have been the turtle energy, but it was telling us to slow down. This energy is telling us to be fearless. I always think of it as, when I look at it, it's like it looks ridiculous, that badger. What it's wearing kind of makes it just look a little bit daft, but at the same time it's kind of saying, well, if I want to wear it, then I'm going to wear it, and what are you going to say about it? What are you going to do about it? What's it got to do with you? How I look, what I wear. So of course this is kind of that axis between the Libra and the Aries energy as well that we're experiencing. So let's just have a quick look at the Badger energy again, number 4, and see what it's saying to us this time. So Badger Spirit rejoices at your persistence and commitment to what is true for you. Whatever you seek, your tenacity and faith in your partnership with Spirit is paying off, and the results will soon coalesce into form in your world. The gift of Badger Spirit is the surety that taking a risk now and being courageous, fearless and bold will yield wondrous results. This is a time to harness your will and apply it consistently to the pursuit of your dreams. Know that no matter the temporary outer conditions, you will manifest your desires in divine timing and in the form that Spirit deems best for you. Badger Spirit says you have what it takes to get what you want, so assert yourself. Be fearless and be bold, shining your light as your purpose calls you into the world. New relationships are also given a green light now. Don't be afraid to make the first move. Badger Spirit loves your brave and mighty heart. So yeah, pretty similar to that cardinal moon energy, as I was saying. Be bold, make the first move, do something. There can also be a side of Badger that can be quite aggressive as well. Again, that can kind of link into that Aries energy where we have the sun at this time, of course, shining its full light on the full moon. Can be quite headstrong. Badgers can be quite fierce and quite scary in their own way as well. So the divine masculine sun energy opposes the divine feminine moon energy during the time of a full moon. And this full moon is taking place on the 16th of April 2022 in the cardinal air sign of balance, harmony, diplomacy, equality and peace, symbolised by the scales of justice, Libra. The full moon will be at its peak at 26 degrees and 45 minutes, which in the UK is happening at 19:54 hours. It will be different for other parts of the world. If you have any planets or points at the 21 to 29 degrees 59 of Libra, or the same degrees of the 180 degree opposing sign of Aries, where the sun is shining his full light from, you will be experiencing the high energy tension of this Libra full moon. For the other two cardinal signs of Capricorn and Cancer at 90 degree square angles, you will also be feeling this in powerful ways, as this is yet another end of sign full moon. It will once again be affecting the early degrees at 0 to 0102 of the following on fixed signs of Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus and Leo. So anything at those degrees will also be activated at this time. So check out your own natal chart to see where this 26-27 degree point of Libra is going to show itself with regard to your house placement on a personal individual level, as this is where it's going to show itself for you. For the collective, this is occurring in the Venus-ruled 7th house of partnerships, which covers not only intimate relationships, but also business contacts, legalities, contracts, negotiations, agreements and treaties. In a nutshell, the 7th house is seeking cooperation through unity. Again, if you're not sure of your placements and you want to know which house, etc., then the link in the description box down below, you click on that go and put in your own personal details, your time, place and date of birth, and it will come up with a personal horoscope for you. So true to its balancing nature, this new moon in Libra is making two obvious, easier connections and two more difficult ones. There are other connections going on as well behind the scenes, and I will talk about these as well. I am going to try and stay on track because this is quite long, so I'm probably not going to do too much kind of like interaction with it. I'm probably just going to read through the actual writing that I've been doing. Normally I will kind of bring in other bits and pieces, but today I'm going to try and stick to what it says. So firstly, both the moon and the sun are in conversation with Mars, who has just passed over the 0 degree point of Pisces the previous day. During this full moon, Mars is at 1 degree 15 minutes of the fish. So this is one of those out of sign connections where Mars is still trine to the moon and sextile with the sun. Mars is not particularly suited to Pisces. He is a warrior who wants to battle. But here in soft, dreamy, spiritual, creative and artistic Pisces, his energy is being channeled into less aggressive pursuits, which with anything else going on at this time in the world is a blessing, or with everything else that's going on in the world. So the moon and the sun are also in the same configurations with Saturn at 23 degrees 21 of Aquarius, and Saturn is still in a powerfully intense T-square with the moon's south and north nodes at 23 degrees 55 of Scorpio and Taurus. The moon represents the people's emotions, and during this full moon in Libra, she is in one of those difficult, non-understanding, non-relating inconjuncts or quincunx of 150 degree angle where nothing fits. This is being made all the more difficult and harsh by the connection with Saturn. And so the moon is in a quincunx with Pluto at this time, which of course is all about power. But we also have a difficult and harsh connection with Saturn, where we are likely to feel some strong restrictions, blockages by figures of authority in our lives, as well as censorship or rejections of our ideas that to some may seem too far-fetched or intangible. And we may also see at this time through social media more cancelling of alternative views via the establishment. For some of us on a personal individual level, these could show up in our friendships as the act of being ignored by friends that are no longer resonating with our own values and ideas for the long-term future, and what we are hoping to build within our social groups. Therefore, having to leave some older established relationships behind in order to allow ourselves to grow into new connections that do resonate with who we are becoming. So these are the easier connections. The major aspect happening here, which is directly affecting this full moon in Libra, is the T-square with the other malefic planet Pluto at 28 degrees 33 in the sign of Capricorn. So sorry, the moon is in an inconjunct with Saturn. So, but she's also in this T-square, this powerful T-square with the Sun, the Moon and Pluto. And Pluto's at 28 degrees 33 and still in the sign of Capricorn. And once again, this is about power play. The full moon energy itself is always about culmination, a time of bringing something to a close, completion, and Pluto is helping to do just that, as on the 29th of April he will station retrograde. So at this time he's beginning to slow down, which is going to make his energy stronger more magnified and even more powerful, as he only has another 2 minutes to go before he reaches that point of 28 degrees 35 minutes. So when it says 2 minutes, it doesn't literally mean like our 2 minutes. It's like 2 minutes in Pluto time is a long time. So it's from now until the end of April, when he retrogrades on the 29th. That for him is him moving those 2 extra minutes that he needs to get to that point. And he's going to stay retrograde right through until early October, about 5 months in all. So Pluto entered his shadow period in early January this year just gone. And this is the degree point that Pluto will retrograde back to. So in January he crossed over the 26 degrees and 6 minutes. And he is now going to retrograde from the end of April back to that 26:06 minutes. And that will be completed in October, early October. So this full moon is emphasizing and telling us to pay attention. Here in Capricorn, Pluto is covering the old ground of what has already been started from January. He's now going to go back over the same area of our lives to make sure nothing has been missed. So Pluto, of course, is all about not just power, he's also about transformation. He's about things being taken out of our lives that are no longer working for us in that same way. So that's kind of, if there's things that started from January until now that were beginning to kind of like change or transform or like be removed from your life, then this retrograde period is going to kind of really bring all that to a head. So this is particularly important for the US at this time as well, as he's going to cover that same hot spot in the natal chart of 27 degrees and 33 minutes, and that's going to be happening on the 11th of July. So that's an interesting time to look out for as well, again, because last time when Pluto originally got to that point on the 20th of January, I think it was, or January, February maybe I've got that wrong. I think it was February that he reached that point, and that was really when it all kicked off with the Russian, Ukraine and US thing that's still ongoing at this time as well. So he also happens to be that point of 27 and 33 minutes happens to be the exact place of Joe Biden's sun in Scorpio as well. So that's an interesting point to watch as well, because the South Node is going to be getting closer. Well, the South Node will have already gone over that, but it's still going to be very much a part of Biden's chart, because it's ruled by Pluto. He is ruled by Pluto. That is his planet. So Pluto is the planet of impermanence. He is the recycler of souls, as he rules over birth, death and transformation from his domain as Lord of the underworld. And these are all the very fundamentals of life itself. Destruction and creation are the ultimate in power. And this full moon in Libra is questioning the use and abuse of these big time. In Capricorn, which is all about the established traditional set in its ways status quo rulership, symbolised through the structure of the pyramid as coming from the top, the elite, where the few govern the many, Pluto is being put under the spotlight. And we are going to see the complete, toxic, poisonous purging of the corrupt, the dirty dealings, the shadow side of power that has completely alienated itself from the people. and therefore no longer relates to those it governs as being relevant. Pluto is bringing down the ivory towers and exposing the sexual deviations, financial bribery, money laundering that has kept these structures in place in governments, corporations, and all big established systems. The walls that have been built up around these corrupt behaviours in order to keep them hidden, secret and safe are all being smashed down from the foundations, and the facade that protects who these people truly are is being removed, falling apart slowly but surely. After all, Pluto is a slow-moving planet. And Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008. So it has taken him a while to get to where he is. And if you look back on what's been happening, particularly in the world of politics and the world of people who are in those kind of elite positions and kind of have that authority over the rest of us, or believe that they have that authority over the rest of us, there's a lot more coming out about all of this that has not been seen previously. So as I said earlier, Libra is the sign of justice, diplomacy, equality and harmony. It is also the way the law is enforced in what is supposed to be in a fair and balanced way. And at this time there are some very powerful lawsuits being put into place. As well as waiting for potential outcomes on fraud against the people, once again, a lot of this is happening in the US and a lot is hanging in the balance when it comes to decertification, which is going to affect the direction of the world. Either way, it tips the scales. This moon is also adding to yet another T-square, as she is also in a fairly tight conjunction with Haumea at 28 degrees 59 minutes. Haumea is still retrograde, and she is also still opposing Eris at 24 degrees 21. And the Sun in Aries. So the Moon and Haumea are opposing Eris and the Sun. Quite a powerful combination. And of course all of those are opposing, or not opposing, are squaring, sorry, the Pluto energy as well. So Pluto really has become the focus of the attention again, and this has been going on for a long time now, where Pluto seems to be the focus of attention for one reason or another. So all of this energy is square to Pluto. Haumea, the Hawaiian creation goddess of creativity, regeneration and rejuvenation. And Eris, the goddess of discord, the feisty, non-conformist female warrioress rebel, both of which have been standing up to the tyrannical, power-driven nature of Pluto for some time now. That T-square has been challenging us to transform our power structures into more fair, honest, balanced, equal systems that put the individual's needs first above all else. The Sun conjunct Eris is really going to help fire this action, as the dark Sith Lords, as I like to call them, really do not have our best interests at heart. And the more they openly show this, the more their low vibrational energy is on view for all to feel and see. They have their own agenda, and more people are becoming aware of this. So once again, we are being asked as sovereign beings with our own individual rights, minds and abilities to think for ourselves, to take back our power and not succumb to the extreme bullying of others around us, especially those who have inserted themselves into positions of authority and are encroaching more and more on our humane nature through the use of such positions of virtual signalling, which only emboldens the hive mind belief. So the hive mind belief is basically, it's like that Aquarian energy of like everybody conforming to do the same thing for the greater good. If you literally think of like how a beehive, how bees in a hive work, they all work together for the greater good being the queen bee. And so they don't actually have like their own individuality, they just become like robotic insects, and that's kind of what is a possible potential for the human race as well, because of this Aquarian energy. There is two sides to this Aquarian energy, just as there's two sides to all the energies. So we have to be very careful not to go down that conformist just because somebody else is doing it, or because most people are doing something. That doesn't mean it's the right thing to do for us on an individual basis. So as this is 7th house Libra energy we are dealing with, as I mentioned previously, this includes the law and our ideas around justice. In the background of this very Libra energy, we still have Makemake, the Polynesian creator god of universal divine law and order, that defines the spiritual way of all life as being through harmony, balance and peace. Makemake is at the other end of Libra, balancing those scales with his feminine counterpart. So you've got Humia at one end, Makemake at the other. And I've spoken about this before. And Makemake is like the very feminine, masculine, and Humia is very much like the masculine, feminine, much more kind of dynamic, fiery. She's volcanic energy. Whereas Makemake is much more about creation energy. He's much more that kind of feminine side of the masculine. And I find it interesting that they're both in these positions at this time, either end of Libra. Libra, of course, being about the feminine and the masculine energy as well, and kind of trying to balance it all out. And I did say I wasn't going to go into, but hey, Makemake is also retrograde and he's at 7 degrees 29 minutes. So he too is going to be staying there for quite some time. And he's now connecting in a beautiful trine at this time with the center energy of Chariklo, the wife of Chiron. And she's at 8 degrees 32 minutes in Aquarius. And the name Chariklo is derived from two separate words. So you've got Chari meaning grace and Klo, which means spinning. So Chariklo is a spinner or weaver of grace. She's also very much connected with our personal boundaries, our sacred space. And in Aquarius, where she is staying until 2028, she will be helping us to define our own unique personal human individuality. And that's what I was talking about, this kind of the space we hold within the collective, which can create a hive alien mind where we all need to act and think alike for the greater good. So Chariklo is helping us to find that individual space and to hold that individual space for ourselves, and not to kind of just become like everybody else for the sake of becoming normalized, if you like, you know, normalized like that. So she's helping us in many ways to not become part of that hive and kind of alien mind way of thinking, where we all need to act and think alike for the greater good. And this is something we have been experiencing through Saturn as well, because Saturn is very much about the status quo and keeping things as they have been, holding things in the past. And so at this time, Chariklo is also creating a supportive sextile with the wife of Neptune, Salacia, who is at 7 degrees 25 minutes in Aries. And she herself is in a strong opposition with Makemake. So Salacia is the goddess of bringing what was in the dark into the light. And I wrote about her, I think it was last week, I did a bit, last fortnight, I did a write-up about how she is like mermaid energy. She used to live in the depths of the ocean, so that was her domain, was kind of the ocean bed, the ocean floor, the darkness of what was down there. And then when she married Neptune, which she was a bit reluctant to do at first, but when she married him and he made her his queen, and an equal in her own right, she became the goddess of the like the bright light, the shimmering light on the water. So she's now to be found more up above, on top, on the surface. So this is why I think that we're seeing things coming up from the bottom, up from the depth of the deep subconscious, if you like, of where things, the deep psyche of the collective that has been buried for a long time, that has been kind of ignored and just like let to just get on with it in the dark somewhere else, and don't go there, you don't look at it kind of energy. But now it's kind of being brought into the light, and I think that Salacia is playing a big role in that. And of course she is also in Aries about the self as well, and so she is working with the self, working with us with the self, just like Cariclo, sorry, is working with the boundaries of the self as well. So these three higher octave celestial energies are all working together to create that sovereign, sacred, divine space from within us, in order to bring the light of universal divine truth and justice out of the darkness. As this trio are all incredibly slow moving, this is a very long, continuing aspect taking place. So this isn't just going to happen overnight. This is not just this short-lived energy. This is like long lasting energy. It's like something that's going to be gradual, but once it happens, once we get there, it's going to be something that is kind of put in place, because it's kind of laying the foundations, if you like, for new energies to grow on top of that. So this is going to be gradual but profound changes within our established society as we know it, especially when it comes to the reality of the judicial system and the disparity found therein, which is also linked in with the lawsuits I was mentioning earlier as well. And I really think that there's a big shift of energies that's taking place around all of that idea of what the law actually is, and how it works for some but doesn't work for others. So another very long-term but again incredibly meaningful aspect taking place in the background of the obvious planetary alignments at this time is another centre known as Pholus, who is to be found at 7 degrees 28 minutes in Capricorn, and he is in direct square angles with both Makemake and Salacia, or Salacia, which means he was also an integral part of last fortnight's new moon. But I didn't realise this because I didn't know of where his place was in the sky at the time, and it's only now that I've been kind of sent down this certain path and told to look at this certain planetary object, and with everything that's going on at the moment, everything that's just kind of come out on the internet, if you know anything about what's going on out there at the moment to do with toxins and poisons, which of course are also very Plutonian as well. We've got Pluto energy, shall we say, South Node in Scorpio. All of this is going to come out, but this is even more relevant to all of the last 2 years, shall we say, is probably the best way to put this, as I'm kind of trying not to make it too obvious. But so, and this was really quite shocking for me, to tell you the honest truth. When I found this out, I was quite like, oh my god. After this, reading this, or finding out about this, and then finding out about everything that the internet is exploding about at this time, I don't know if you haven't heard it yet, there's something out there called Watch the Water. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. There's a lot of interesting information coming out about this. And I was kind of led to look at this before any of that information came out. And so when that information came out, I was just like, oh my god, that is just crazy. that I have just looked into this and now this has come out. So so this is another T-square that we're dealing with here as well, which is always a challenging energy. T-squares, 90 degrees, always difficult, hard, challenging energies. And of course we're making it with Salacia and Make. So that's, pardon me, sorry, that's Salacia who's, or Salacia who's bringing up all of this stuff out of the dark into the light. And Make, he's all about like cosmic law, cosmic order, justice, can't escape it, basically. So, and they're all connecting at 7 degrees. All of those three are at 7 degrees at this time, which is an interesting number in itself as well, because 7 relates to spiritual aspects. And so Pholus is the focal point of attention of this T-square as well. And what's even more interesting about this is Pholus was there at 4 degrees and 16 minutes in Capricorn at the time of the March new moon madness in 2020, which I spoke about previously as well. If you watch my previous video, which I put out for the new moon in Aries, then you would have heard me talk about the energies that were in play at that time as well, because that date was the time when the UK made the decision to lock us all down. And so that new moon was very similar to the one we have just had on the 1st of April, which was the new moon in Aries. Only the one that we had in 2020 also included Black Moon Lilith at 6 degrees, as well as Chiron at 5 degrees. So Chiron and Black Moon Lilith were making a connection as well, and Black Moon Lilith is also all about kind of like the darkness. And Chiron is the wounded healer. He is healing the wounds that we have ignored for so long. So these are all in Aries and square to Pholus as well. So while at the same time Pholus, back in 2020 this is, Pholus was trying to Uranus at 4 degrees of Taurus as well. And both Uranus and Pholus were sextile with Mercury at 6 degrees of Pisces. So that trine with Uranus is kind of really implying that there was massive change about to happen. And it was about to happen in a way that was unexpected and shocking, and with Mercury there as well, it was all about the media. It was all about, and with Black Moon Lilith there, it kind of brought up all the fear as well, because Black Moon Lilith deals with fear. So it was all there. All the ingredients, shall we say, on that level was there. So in Greek mythology, Pholus was, like Chiron, a rarity among the centaurs, who, being half beast and half man, were known for their wilder, warrior, more untamable nature. Pholus, however, was of a more gentle, wiser, kinder disposition, similar to Chiron. But unlike Chiron, Pholus was mortal. During one of his 12 tasks, Heracles dropped in to see Pholus, and the two dined together. Pholus, a gracious host, opened a casket of wine given to him originally by Dionysus, the god of the vine, festivity, pleasure, madness, ecstasy, and frenzy. Being a wine of great quality, the aroma drifted from the cave. Pholus inhabited out to the other centaurs nearby, who on smelling it did indeed get driven into a wild frenzy, rushing into the cave and demanding their wine. On hearing the chaos and havoc, Chiron too arrived to help Pholus, who was trying to calm things down, but the centaurs were having none of it. Upon realising this futility, Heracles decided to shoot them with his arrows that had been dipped in the poisonous, venomous, note that word, blood of the Gorgon Medusa, whose head was covered in snakes. The centaurs that Heracles didn't manage to kill fled. Sadly, during all the madness, Chiron was also shot. But being an immortal, he did not die, but he suffered painfully for the rest of his life. And this is also the reason he became known as the wounded healer, as it led him to true empathy for those who also experienced pain on any level of their being. So Pholus was not wounded, but on attempting to help remove an arrow from one of those Heracles had shot, one of the centaurs that Heracles had shot, he accidentally stabbed himself with the tip, thereby bringing about his own demise. And there's a lot to be unpacked in that, just that story alone, with everything that is happening and has been happening over this last 2 years especially. So the celestial body that has been named after Pholus was discovered in 1992. It has an orbit between Neptune and Saturn that also includes Uranus. The myth itself also shows aspects of these. The wine, the intoxication relates to Neptune. The ensuing sudden chaos is Uranus. The stability and safety of surviving is Saturn. Whenever a new body is found, astrologers will look to see what is taking place in the world at that time, as well as the astrological chart of where it was on discovery. Pholus was at 0 degrees 36 minutes of Leo, making his way back into the sign of Cancer. During that time, he was making 2 quincunxes, or inconjuncts, with both Mars at 29 degrees 58 minutes and Mercury, who was conjunct Mars at 29 degrees in Sagittarius. Leo is known as a sign of pleasure, which Pholus and Heracles were enjoying with their meal together until the rowdy rebel of centaurs arrived. Mercury in Sagittarius is very sociable, gregarious, and doesn't know when to stop, especially when it's conjunct Mars. Mars, of course, is associated with the blood. In Sagittarius, it can be hot-tempered, pushing us beyond our boundaries, or us pushing others beyond theirs. It also ties into the myth story of Medusa's toxic blood being on the arrows. Sagittarius is always depicted as the centaur shooting an arrow, and an arrow, when it hits its mark, will enter the bloodstream, like a needle piercing the skin. In 1992, a very interesting phenomena took place in the world of science. Just after the finding of Pholus, a new word appeared on the scene, apoptosis, which is derived from the Greek apo, meaning away from, and tosis, meaning falling, which the medical and biological fields suddenly started writing about as the death of cells in the body. Prior to 1992, this word did not exist among any cell biology text. You couldn't find it in any biology text before 1992, before Pholus was discovered. And that year, funding of grants that mentioned the word apoptosis actually doubled for having that word in the title. And I think it doubled again by 1994. So there was a real push, there was a real focus on the word apoptosis, which basically in the medical world means the death of the cells. And very oddly, when Chiron appeared on the scene in 1977, the medical world was beginning to research a protein that seems to start the process of cell death. Chiron was immortal, and therefore he was unable to die. But 14 years later, when Pholus is discovered and named, the word apoptosis, or cell death, is also to be found everywhere. Coincidence? A book written in 1996 by Marianne Alexander titled The Centaur Pholus talks about Pholus as being connected to viruses. She writes, one meaning of Pholus is viruses, AIDS, Ebola, hepatitis and others not so deadly, including computer viruses. It is also poisons, birth defects, DNA and gene research. The flip side of the coin, and there is always a flip side, as I said, there's always two sides to every planet's nature or celestial body's nature, is that Pholus is prominent in the charts of healthcare professionals. She also explains that on the world stage at that time, some of the headlines in the news were 103 killed in cholera outbreak in Mali, scientists catch hot zone virus from 500-year-old mummy, firm hopes virus delivers, virus killing shrimp, double whammy, AIDS and TB, twin epidemics feed on each other, UN says. Deadly epidemic in Nicaragua, still a mystery. Ebola death toll is 153 of 205 infected. So that was just a few. And so while researching this myself, which I had no idea I was going to do, once again, my guides sending me down interesting pathways that always lead back to the now, I realised that Pholus is also linked in with the biolabs and what is taking place with the EU, Ukraine, Russia, China, the US and the UK. At the beginning of October in 2019, as Neptune and Black Moon Lilith became conjunct exactly, which I talk about all the time, Pholus had reached the 29 degrees point of Sagittarius, which was the exact same degree that both Mars and Mercury were at when Pholus was found. And that, again, is like, is that a coincidence? So, Pholus at that time was square to Chiron and Salacia in Aries, because they're so slow moving as well. And also Makemake, who at that time was also conjunct the Sun. And if we go back to the 28th of October 2019, we had just had a new moon in Libra, which was opposing Chiron and Salacia, which was square to Pholus, which tells me this T-square energetics has been part of our psyche for a few years now. So when a planet is discovered or a new body is discovered, it kind of integrates itself into our psyche. It's like in 1992 when the word apoptosis suddenly appeared everywhere. It was kind of integrating itself into our psyche. And so the more that we learn about these outer body, out of, like, not out of body so much, but out of solar system, not even, I can't think of the word, out of, like, they're out there in the Kuiper Belt area, they're kind of much further out than our known planets. So we're not as aware of the energy because these other planets have been spoken about now, and the myth around them and everything has been spoken about for so long that they're already kind of in our psyche. So this is a new thing that we are feeling with this Pholus energy, but it's a big energy that's going to be around for a long time. It's going to continue for quite a few more years to come as well. So again, it's another big energy that's going to change things for us. And in Capricorn, it's bringing our awareness to the sudden and unexpected demise of the establishment, corporations, authority figures, the older order, hierarchy and structures built up around them in general to keep them safe. But also I feel as though it's also now kind of pointing out that there is no extreme that these people will stop at. There is nothing that they will not, no point that they will not go beyond in order to get what they are seeking, is kind of what's coming out for me with this Pholus energy as well, particularly in light of everything that has just come out. And again, if you're not aware of what that's about, there is a huge it's suddenly become very aware that there is snake venom being used in massive ways right the way through all the pharmaceutical companies. This is huge, and it has got a big part to play in this last 2 years as well. And I find it really interesting that Pholus has been there connecting with all these planets at this time. particularly around the time of Black Moon Lilith and Neptune becoming conjunct, because I've spoken about how I believe that that was like the starting point of it all, really. And finding out that Pholos was also there kind of brings it all to a real even stronger belief for me in that sense. So yeah, when it comes to the hierarchy, particularly those who've reached the pinnacle of their illustrious careers, and they are going to be reaping the consequences of the actions that they have taken to get themselves there and keep themselves on top. And I really believe that this is going to be the case when more and more people find out and discover the truth about what is going on at this time. So we also have the galactic center, interestingly, at 27 degrees and 9 minutes. And of course, going back to that 2019 time when Pholos was at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, it has just crossed over the galactic center itself as well. So the galactic center is once again being activated during this new moon, with the sun in a strong trine and the moon in a strong sextile, both at 26 degrees 45 minutes, bringing that higher divine light through the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and the message from the Libra Aries axis that a balanced, harmonious, equal, loving, right relationship with others must begin with the self. We could also find ourselves opening up to our sacred and higher self, as we are still in the profound conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter, which was exact on the 12th, where the two of them have been travelling together. Neptune is now at 24 degrees and 7 minutes, and Jupiter is at 24 degrees 55 or 25 degrees in Pisces, and are also square with the galactic center. So this is also challenging us to go beyond our belief systems and allow ourselves to expand into new knowledge through what we do not yet know. So this Neptune-Jupiter conjunction on the 12th was also square with Black Moon Lilith at 29 degrees 44. So again, opposing the galactic center. 29 degrees, it's that critical point where anything can happen. It's known as the critical, anaretic, karmic point, in fact, as well. And she was just getting ready to enter Cancer, which she has done on the 15th. So she's actually just gone into Cancer, or will actually be going into Cancer tomorrow, because I'm doing this reading on the 14th. So she'll be going into Cancer tomorrow. Which is going to be a change of energy as well. We're going to see a shift of that Black Moon Lilith energy in Cancer. I think there's going to be a lot more to do with parents becoming a lot more outraged and a lot more aggressive and angry about what has been happening over these past 2 years, and the children in particular, because Cancer is the mother, it's the nurturing energy. So I'm not just going to say it's mothers only. I think it's going to be mothers and fathers, parents in general. I think it's going to be a kind of bringing things together. There's one thing that everybody's going to agree on. It's going to be their children being safe. And when the truth comes out about what has been happening in this last 2 years, I think there will be a lot more unity and cooperation between people who maybe there has been division and splits because of their differences of opinions and views, but once Black Moon Lilith moves more into Cancer, I think that there will be more, like I was saying, more kind of coming together and working together as a unit. Even if there's still division, even if I'm not saying that people are suddenly going to get back together, but I think that on some level people are going to become more unified in their direction. So so this is creating yet another T-square, with the focus and release point being that of this powerful history changing conjunction. So Pluto, sorry, not Pluto, nothing to do with Pluto, Neptune and Jupiter have been the focal point of this Black Moon Lilith galactic center T-square as well, and a lot of the focus, or all the focus, has been on this Neptune Jupiter conjunction that has been taking place and is still taking place and will continue to take place for a while longer, and the reverberations from that connection are going to spread out for a long time, even after the conjunction has kind of come to its actual ending process. The effects of it are going to continue to be felt and experienced way into history. And the shorter term aspects of this are going to be revealing of things that have not yet been revealed. And I've put here that it's about things we could possibly never even begin to imagine in our wildest dreams, as the truth is already being unveiled before our eyes. And it's what's really interesting as well is that it was on the 12th of April when Neptune and Jupiter came together that this information was released. Again, if you haven't heard about it, go and check it out online. Check out Stu Peters, check out Mike Adams, check out Watch the Water. That's really what you're looking for. A documentary. It's probably not going to be as easy to find online, because they will want to hide this information. But if you know people who are alternative in their understanding and the things that they watch and they listen, then maybe ask them to give you some information or send you a link or something, so that you can actually sit and make up your own mind. It is, I warn you, out there information. It is out there, which I'm not at all surprised about having the galactic center. I mean, the galactic center is out there energy. It's our connection to the universe, to the cosmos, to the higher stream of incoming changing energy. So yes, it is out there, but it's also, it's quite dark as well, which is the Black Moon Lilith side of it as well. But there's also this revealing side from the Neptune and the Jupiter, the truth coming out. So Venus has also just moved into the Pisces energy as well. So she's now at 12 degrees and 8 minutes during this Libra full moon. And Mars has just entered at 1 degree, and he's at 1 degree 15 minutes as well. So we've got this stellium again of energies in this 12th house. And the 12th house is about surrendering, transcending, dissolving, letting go and merging with the source of universal love. It's our deeper connection to oneness. So this is a time to trust that whatever is revealed to us individually and collectively serves a higher purpose for our evolutionary growth. And the 12th house energy as well, which I haven't written, but I am going to say that the 12th house energy is also about our hidden enemies. It's also about our own flaws as well, that we may not necessarily want to see or acknowledge, being brought into the light as well. And that's kind of making sense to me as well, as I see a lot of the kickback or the feedback that's coming from a lot of alternative sites against the information that has been put out there as well. So it's like there is this side of us that doesn't want to acknowledge this darker possibility, even that people could do this kind of thing to other people. I think people find it really hard to get their head around how wicked and evil these people can be towards other human beings. They just don't want to accept it. It's just like far too out there information, and I can understand that. It is scarily, like, disturbing, highly disturbing, but you can't just ignore it and pretend that it doesn't happen on any level, because it does. And one of the things that's been coming out about this, about it being this poison, this venomous poison being in our water, is somebody's pointed out as well that they've been putting stuff in our water for years. I mean, fluoride water is poison. It is a toxic. It is a toxin. Fortunately, I don't think we have it so much here in the UK as there is in other parts of the world, but it is a poison that affects the nervous system and the brain, and it kind of destroys, basically. So so if they can do that knowingly, then they can do this as well. But we also have to tune into that higher vibration, the higher vibration of love. Even knowing what we know, we then have to step it up and move into that higher vibration of love, oneness, knowing that we are connected to a higher source, a higher divine energy. That, as I was saying, you know, that there is purpose to all of this. And so lastly, I just want to mention that I was writing this part on the 12th, and I've been made aware of something to do with the symbolism of the two warring countries as well. So it struck me how the trident is the symbol of Ukraine, which interestingly was taken up as a national symbol in 1992, and which is also worn by the US Navy SEALs to represent sea, earth and land. Sea, earth, air and land, sorry. And long before either of those, however, it has been used as the astrological sign for Neptune to represent the god Poseidon, the ruler of the oceans. The symbol for the Russian Federation has been a two-headed golden eagle since it was adopted from the Byzantine Empire after Ivan III married a Byzantine princess in 1472, although it didn't appear as a Russian royal seal until 1497. So the Byzantines themselves had never had an official coat of arms. The symbol of the double-headed eagle was to be found on all the emperor's clothes, which is where it originates, apparently. It originates, or it goes further back, and it is found in stones. But the Byzantines had it on, like emperors wore it on their clothes. And it is believed that the two heads, which are both crowned and looking in opposite directions, represent east and west, with a third crown above. And the wings are outstretched and are symbolic of unity, the empire united through the single body of the eagle. But strangely enough, the idea of the eagle as being a sacred deity stems back to the Greek mythology of Zeus, who is also known as Jupiter, who adopted it as his favourite. So the eagle was one of Zeus's symbols. It was his bird. It was known as Zeus's bird, the eagle. And at this time we have symbolically both Neptune and Jupiter in the sky, conjunct in the sky, which is the trident and the eagle. And they are coming together in the sky as well as their equivalent on the ground. And I just thought that that was just a really interesting fact, basically. Just interesting that we've got this energy. It's almost like pulling our attention towards something very important that's going on here, not only in the sky but also on the ground. What is that all about? I think there's more to it than meets the eye personally. So the Sabian symbol for the 26 degrees of Libra is, and this was quite amusing to me as well, it is an eagle and a large white dove that are turning constantly into each other. So this symbol implies the ability or the necessity of being able to integrate the principle of the will, the eagle, with the principle of the emotions, the white dove. Being able to bring these two together makes for a much stronger effect on others, and the personality is strengthened and given an edge that it otherwise might not have. There may be confusion around whether to use force or love in some situations. Being firm and yet kind, being flexible and yet sure of what you're doing or where you're heading keeps one on an even keel. Alteration of these responses will lead to the best solution. So basically it's saying that if you need to change up from force to love or love to force, it's like knowing which is the best thing to use at the best time. Kind of reminds me a bit of the tarot card of strength, the feminine and the masculine, knowing when you need to be more forceful and aggressive with something, or when it's better to kind of deal with it in a softer, more gentle approach. So tempering one's will with love and bolstering up one's emotional responses with strength. Cooperation of mind, will, spirit and heart. Being strong and soft, considering others. And the more negative side of this, again the flip coin, is saying being all over the place, not acting for the purpose of a definite outcome, confusing behaviour, schizophrenia, on 1 minute, off the next, changeable behaviour. And that is kind of the basis of the up and down scales as well. If you think of the scales like shifting backwards and forwards constantly, which is also a very Libra energy as well, that backwards and forwards, trying to get into harmony, trying to get into balance, but not always finding it an easy thing to do. So because we're dealing with Libra and she's Venus ruled, or he's Venus ruled, he is almost like the, because it is it a masculine energy? Yes, it is a masculine energy. Libra is the masculine energy. But it's ruled by a feminine planet, so it kind of reminds me quite a lot of that Make energy in itself. Of the softer, more feminine within the masculine approach to things. So I think we have 2 cards here. But this is why I decided to use the Divine Feminine cards today. And we've got the Black Madonna, Our Lady of the Hermits. And it says, I transform pain and suffering into a greater capacity to love. And we also have with it Mirabai, who is the saint of true freedom. Love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. Which kind of reminds me of my tarot reading that I did earlier today, in fact, which was very much about loving the self first, which is that, again, it's that Aries Libra axis between the two. Right relationship to the self brings in right relationship with everybody else. So the Black Madonna is, just have a quick look, Black Madonna, where are you? Does not seem to be here. I can find Mirabai. Baya. Oh, there we go. The Black Madonna, page 26. So who she is. The Black Madonna represents the power we all have to emerge from the darkness transformed. There are over 500 Black Madonnas throughout Europe. Historians believe many of the icons are actually of the Egyptian goddess Isis and her son Horus, which were carried over from Egypt during the Crusades. Other icons of the Black Madonna are meant to represent earth goddesses and are worshipped for the fertility miracles attributed to them. She is often depicted holding the royal sceptre of a ruling monarch. Jungian psychologist Marion Woodman believes that the Black Madonna represents a new awareness of consciousness toward the earth and our bodies. She represents the wisdom we can only accrue when we go through the often painful fires of transformation. In The Pregnant Virgin, Woodman relates that only the intensity of the fire can unite body and soul. The Black Madonna helps us become conscious of the spirit in matter, of the light in the dark, of the intersection of sexuality and spirituality. This particular Black Madonna resides in the Benedictine monastery in Einsiedeln, Switzerland. The abbey is dedicated to Our Lady of the Hermits because the chapel where she resides was originally the hermitage of Saint Meinrad, a 9th century hermit. Einsiedeln is the birthplace of the renowned alchemist Paracelsus. Alchemy is the physical process of transforming base metals into unalloyed gold, which represents a spiritual and metaphysical process of burning away all obstacles to just be the soul. The Black Madonna is loved for having been through the fires of loss and for emerging with a greater capacity to love. Every afternoon for hundreds of years, the monks of the abbey have come out from meditation to sing Salve Regina to Our Lady of the Hermits. For millennia, the body, the earth, all forms of matter have been devalued and misunderstood. The dark has been so vilified, yet all life emerges from the pitch black womb. The darkness is potential. It's the crucial and elemental stage we must all go through to create new or more life. The Black Madonna is the emblem of deep wisdom, the profound consciousness that is inherent in all things. All living and created things are energy. The body has wisdom, the earth has wisdom, and the pain we experience as humans contains deep wisdom. When we are in the fires of suffering, it can be difficult to trust that gold is being forged. It can be hard to trust when we are in terrific pain that there is a process at work that will make us more authentic, more alive, and infinitely freer. It can be almost impossible to accept or notice the presence of the divine when we are at our most human. The Black Madonna is the cauldron that holds us steadfastly as we endure the alchemy of integrating more soul into our existence. She is the promise that what doesn't survive the fires of suffering was never meant for us. And she is the presence that is there with us even when we might feel the most alone, reminding us that there is no darkness we can enter without being met by love. So the soul meditation is, how is my solitude serving me? And the intention is I transform pain and suffering into a greater capacity to love. I think that's what's at the bottom of that card there. And so the second card that came out with her is page 84. Be interesting to see if there's a connection here between them. So the Saint of True Freedom. She is an embodiment of love that lets us do what's right for our own lives, no matter what others might think. Mirabai, or Meera, is a Bhakti poet and mystic from Rajasthan, India. She was born a princess in the late 15th century. She unwillingly married Bhojraj, the crown prince of Mewar, in 1516, but she considered Krishna to be her true husband. Legends say that her husband's family tried to kill her several times for defying the social customs and expectations of a wife. But in each of these legends, Mirabai's love for Krishna would miraculously save her. She wears the Krishna tilaka, or forehead marking, as a sign of her devotion to him. Northern India in the 16th century was besieged by violent battles between Hindus and Muslims. Mirabai's husband, father and father-in-law all died in the war with the Islamic army of Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire. Mirabai refused to join her husband on his funeral pyre and again defied social and cultural expectations. She became the central poet saint of the Bhakti movement during this difficult period in Indian history. The Bhakti movement is a spiritual path focused on the cultivation of a personal love for the divine. It's a devotional form of worship that believes anyone can have direct access to the divine regardless of sex, caste or religion. Mirabai became the symbol of people suffering under the caste system and the persecution that ensued if anyone tried to defy social and political standing. Mirabai's poems are lyrical padas or love songs using metric verses, and they are so widely known and cherished because they relate an ultimate freedom that Mirabai lived out in her love for Krishna. So often, without even realising it, we make choices based on external expectations, on how we think other people will perceive our actions. Mirabai is about doing what's right for you and no one else. Ultimately, only you can know what needs to be done or said. You have this one brief life and every second of it matters. Mirabai is about standing up for what you know is right for you, even if others will judge you for it. And this is really interesting because it's reminded me of the tarot reading very strongly that I did previously to this. So the tarot reading will hopefully have already been put out by the time you get to listen to this. So if you're interested in listening to the tarot part as well, because there is a big message within that as well, I recommend you do so. Because I was going to use these cards in the tarot reading, and then I kind of run out of time and decided that I would use them in the astrology reading instead. But they seem to connect the tarot reading with this astrology reading for me as well quite strongly. There's definitely a connection happening there. And if you watch my reading, you'll hopefully understand why I feel that way. So the fear of being persecuted can convince us not to be true to who we really are. There's a love, though, that's far larger than human constructs and cultural values. Love isn't ethical. Love isn't bound by any idea of what's socially acceptable. Love is what sets us free from the expectations that bind us. Love, in whatever way it finds us, asks us to stay loyal to our own soul. Any outside force or person who asks us to betray our most intimate relationship with the divine isn't acting out of love. For Mirabai, her true husband wasn't the one she was married to. The love that made her brave, the love that inspired her every poem and action, was a divine love for Krishna. So the laws that bound her to the strict expectations of being a wife didn't actually apply to her. Love asks us to look at what really matters to us and at what we truly value. And love asks us to bravely defy expectations in order to be true to ourselves. Love wants us to marry our own soul. And so the soul voice meditation is what holds me back from expressing my truth. And the intention, love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. And they do, for me, really kind of connect in with the energies of what I was talking about within the tarot reading that I did earlier today. So that is very interesting. So I'm going to leave it there and say thank you very much to those of you who have come over and listened to my reading to the end. Please could you thumbs it up for me and give me a like, because it does really help to let the platform know that people are listening to my readings and are interested in what I have to say. If you found anything of any interest, please just give it a thumbs, because it does really make a difference to my channel and to help me to grow this channel and get my messages out there as well. And also, those of you who have liked it, thank you very much. Those of you who have subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. If you haven't yet subscribed, please could you do so, as it really will make a difference, as I was saying, to kind of grow my channel and get those messages out there. And also comment and share my videos. There is going to be a subscription button on the video itself, so you can just tap that, and also the bell will come out and you can do whatever you feel like doing, getting the videos as and when they come out or not. At the moment I am focusing mostly on the full moon and new moon videos, although I am trying to kind of head towards doing more like I have done in the past. But I do have personal big astrology happening in my life at this time as well, so it's kind of a little bit restricting, and I'm kind of just doing as much as I can do really at this time. So but I will be putting out more of the 2022 videos as well. I know it's getting kind of nearer to the middle of the year, and I've been saying that I will get them done, but I will be getting more done this week as well. So if you're interested, I'm up to the Sagittarius, so I've put out everything up until Sagittarius. So I've got Sagittarius up until the Pisces one, which will be obviously the last one. So hopefully I'll get them out within this coming fortnight, and I will also be back here again to do the new moon eclipse energy that is taking place on the 31st of Taurus. As well, as I was saying, the energy of the eclipse is already upon us. Fast moving, quick action energy of things changing. Eclipse energy is all about change. It's all about pushing things forward, like accelerating timelines, etc., moving very quickly towards where you're meant to be. And it's going to be quite something to see what's going to happen around us. So take good care of yourselves at this time, please. Yeah, enjoy this Libra full moon, socialize, have fun, and take good care and stay safe. Hopefully see you again soon.